today are Linda Holliday and Kristen Pelster. Linda Holliday is going to speak first. She's an educational consultant with the Webster School District and some of the other local school districts. She was a teacher for several years before moving into administration, and I'll let her speak a little more about what she's done to get to where she is now. And then Kristen Pelster is our other speaker. She graduated from MBU in 1992 with a degree in music education, and she's now the principal of Ridgewood Middle School in the Fox School District. So let's thank our speakers for coming, and Linda's going to come up first.
Thank you so much for choosing this session. When I heard the weather report, I thought, oh my goodness, there are going to be 5 of us out there. So thanks again. I'm glad you said yes, and hopefully you'll learn a lot today, because the question and answer period is what I enjoy most. As you heard earlier, I'm a retired assistant superintendent for human resources, and now I'm working as a consultant with a local agency in St. Louis County. So I have the pleasure of serving students and families in several school districts and getting to see what they're like, and they all run differently, so that's been a great experience for me. Need to project a little more. That's actually, I'm pretty loud. So I thought I'd start off with just giving you a little information. We're going to have Nicole push that button and talk about some of the steps to getting that job that you are looking for as soon as you graduate. The 5 steps, of course, there's desire. You have to want it. We know when we're sitting in front of people interviewing, I know when I'm sitting with someone who really wants the job. So make sure that you have that desire and commitment, and there's discipline involved. You've learned that from the university here, that you have to discipline yourself. Make sure that you are preparing for that interview, and get a routine. Make sure that you are looking at exactly what needs to happen, and condition yourself so that the actions become a routine as you prepare for that next job. If you, I see some of you taking notes, and if there's something here that you want, I can get it to you through the university. And then access your skills. A lot of people tell me that, I have a real hard time bragging on myself. I can't toot my own horn. This is the time to toot, people. Make sure that you know what makes you unique and distinguishes you from others. Be prepared to work in this global economy. Know your strengths and weaknesses. It's okay to talk about a concern. I usually don't say that word weakness, because there are strengths and then there are areas of challenge and things that you need to work on. We all have them. Everyone does. So be prepared to answer that question, because we're going to want to know how honest you are about your own challenges, and definitely be prepared to pat yourself on the back about your strengths. Research and preparation, networking, your resume, I'll talk about that a little more, because I think that's something I'll spend some time on. Have a plan of action where you're mapping and securing a way to secure this job, and hone in, perfect some interview skills. Some people tell me that, how do we get those? What do we do for? You have an uncle or an aunt, I usually say aunt, I'm trying to be in the Midwest here, but you have relatives that you can ask to walk through an interview, ask your questions, make sure that you have the opportunity to practice what you're going to say before getting into that stressful setting as far as an interview is concerned. I like to see a little bit of nerves and concern. If someone comes into an interview and they're all, laid back and they don't care, I think it shows you're expected to be a little nervous. But prepare as much as you can so that those nerves don't interfere with your speaking and your opportunity to come across as someone who's very interested in the job. Your cover letters. People ask me this all the time. Do you really read them? And I say yes. Some other human resource managers and superintendents may say no. I'd like to know that you have researched the school district that you're applying for, the company that you're applying for, and you know something about that company and that district that comes through and makes you unique in your cover letter. I'm not saying go on and read the CSIP and the mission vision. That's kind of okay if you can work those things in, but some of those the strategic plan, I'm not talking about those things. Know something about the district's curriculum Let's say you're student teaching now and the math program is investigations and you look on the website and you say, oh, Webster has that. That's what they're using. They do your research. Let me know that. Know something about the history of the district. When I say add those to your cover letter, those are the types of things I'm talking about. When people try to quote the MAP scores and that type of thing, that's a little dangerous. It's okay that you know that we're progressing or how many years of distinction and performance and those types of things, but we really want that cover letter to just show why you are interested specifically in our school districts. So that's a part of the cover letter that I'm interested in knowing, to personalize your content. And the good appearance. You know, they say clothes don't make the person. They used to say clothes don't make the man, so I have to change it up a little bit. But it's very important. Unfortunately, it's still, that first impression still makes a difference. So make sure that you're neat and presentable and ready for that first encounter as far as an interview or a screen. Some resume basics. You know all of this, so I'm going to really run through that. I like brief. I want no more than 2 pages, especially for someone just entering the workforce. A lot of people tell me that when they have 5 and 6 pages that we are discriminating because we know that they're older. I'm not interested in discriminating in any way or shape or form. All I know is I have an amount of time to critique all of this information. And if I flip through and start seeing a 4-page resume, then it's probably something that I'll get to page 2 and skip around and look at some other things. I may go back to your actual online application and try to find the information there. So make sure that resume is crisp. You have choices, and one is there's a chronological resume, and that's what most people use. And then there's a skills where you try to group all of your skills. It doesn't matter which one, just so that it is neat. When I say neat, I mean your organization of it. Sometimes you see just words, just line after line. You know, it's just great to have some boxes or section it off where it presents a good picture of how you go about presenting yourself. And so for that, if there's anything about the appearance of the resume, I don't care if it's chronological or what you choose to use, just make sure that you are not adding a lot of information on the page and just going on and on and on with the written information. Questions so far about that resume? I hear questions a lot, and that people are concerned that it means more than it should. But it's your first way of presenting yourself to us. Yes?
I have read online that education expects a different type of resume than others. Is that true?
I've basically seen, you know, now there are VITAs and all kinds of different things when you're applying to other companies. And
right.
What I've seen over the years, since I've had the job, it's basically the same resume.
Okay.
And so now, and it is the chronological one most of the time, because we just like to know quickly, where'd you go to school, when did you get your bachelor's, when did you get your master's, what are your skills, but and your last job, most recent job, those types of things. And again, for me, I'm not trying to be so brief that I don't get the information, but I shared earlier with one of the students, we have a lot of resumes to read and a lot of applications, so we're just looking at something that catches the eye and gives me the information that I need as quickly as possible. I'm also looking for that perfect candidate, so, you know, I have a job to do, and so the scanning is important as far as getting through all the information, but I really want to find that candidate that shines. Yes.
How do you make it stand out, or how do you, from other resumes, if you're just scanning?
I think that's the part about the cover letter that I said makes kind of a difference for me, because I know what that resume is going to look like. They look very similar. Every now and then there's some type of special bulleting or something. I had one person that stood out to me, really talked about why they wanted to teach, and everyone can't come from a family of teachers and that type of thing, but it really was interesting to see and to read that they talked education around the dinner table every night. This person came up knowing about schools and how they wanted to be in a school. That's just a part of it. You still have to perform in several different interviews, but that let me see that there was really a heart in this for education, and in particular, because that's a big part of our jobs, is we want people who really are caring and love the kids and that type of thing. But I think that's the part that stands out to me, and that doesn't have to be, the cover letter should also be a one-page situation. So thanks for that question, but yes, I said yes to you first.
I have a business degree, and I've worked so many years in a business arena, and I want to teach business. Registered my first year. Now, my resume will have a lot of business,
So that's where your cover letter says,
there's my cover letter.
I have been in this organization, this field forever. I've worked, and now I want to pass that on as a teacher in the same area. We can really fix yours up, but use that experience and make sure that's in that letter. But you don't have to put every year, all the years. Like if you move to 3 different places, use the most recent one, that type. When you find that you're going on and on. So we should put all of your information into a form, write it all out, and then decide how you are going to pare that down a little.
My last job was a little over 16 years. Anything prior to that is too old. Like 85 and local government. And now they have changed over, and I know they got a whole new system. So in 2008, I worked.
Good point. And freshen your language to go with that change, because things have changed, and you know it because you're in the field. So make sure that you are up to date in what you share in your cover letter. Yes.
I was similar. I was in business for 5 years in marketing, decided I was elementary teaching, so I wanted to know just how much information you think pulling from business experience, maybe those aspects, multitasking, things like that would be good to have in the classroom, maybe focusing on those in the cover letter.
Yes, we love to know about the different experiences. I talked about the person who grew up in education, hearing about it all day. This is also important, that you bring other things to the table, that you are going to bring that business perspective. And that's sometimes something in education that we forget. It's a business too, but I know, when I shouldn't say we, I forget, that we're running a major business in educating students. So, good questions. I know that you have a career fair coming up soon, and you want to make the best out of that career fair. I've changed over the years in how I feel about the job fairs and career fairs, because I thought they were just, give me the resume, I'll take it back, I'll look at it. That opportunity to speak, to have a conversation face-to-face, and they talk about the 30-minute introduction. I don't know if your teachers have shared any of that, but have a 30-second, have a plan of what you're going to share with me as we shake hands across this table, that 20 people are behind you, and you need to make an impression on me, and you have 30 seconds to do so. So think about what you're going to say and why you are interested in the district. Identify your top few districts. Go to those first. Make sure that you are upfront and letting people know that you are very interested in working in Fox School District and why. She's here for Fox. So make sure that you know what you have a focus for that day, for that activity. Sometimes we pull people aside at the job fairs, or I'll bring another principal with me or another administrator, and I'll ask that they spend a little more time with that person. So you can actually get your first foot in the door through the career fairs. I think some people believe that it's not the case, but I have had the opportunity to work with, if I know I have a chemistry teacher and we have a chemistry person at a job fair, I'm not going to wait for all of you guys to work with to the other districts to see the person. We're going to pull them aside and try to have a little conversation. And move forward with that. Or we always have an idea of where the job openings are, even though this time of year I may not know specifically. I know their elementary positions will always be there, just about every school district. But for those very specific, the guidance counselors, the business, some of those, be prepared, because there may be that opportunity to actually impress and have someone take your card and your information and put a special mark on it and call you later. So make that career fair work for you. Use that time to impress. And research, again, those top districts that you want, and practice your 30-second introduction. Do any of you know what I'm talking about? Have you talked about that at all? Just a way to, talk about your level of interest and why in that school district, and your name and if you're student teaching in that area, or where you're student teaching currently, and just make sure you have some information other than, here's my resume and my name is. So give it some thought and think about what you might share at your career fair. And your career fair is coming up soon, right? And we'll have a principal there from our school district. We'll go to the interviews. This is my favorite part. The initial interview, I don't know, there are different ways to get in the door, but please make sure you impress during that initial interview. They're very brief for the most part. How many of you have already started your interviews? That first interview can be very brief, and I tell people when I make the phone call or I send the email that, don't feel like it was not a good interview or you didn't do well. It's going to be quick, and again, it's a little more time than the job fair, but probably 20 minutes or so, and make sure you're ready to impress at that meeting. A lot of people ask me about earrings, piercings, jewelry, hair up, hair down. I'm always interested in the question. I personally don't really care. I no longer see that a man has 2 earrings on because everybody does, or 1 earring or whatever. That's not of interest to me. I have to take that time to find out what you know and how you care about kids and families. So make sure that you use that time also. It goes quickly. It's a two-way street. So I also, even though that's a quick interview, I want you to want us. So that I have to impress also. So with the questions that we prepare, and I think a lot of times you can Google interview questions and you know the ones we're going to ask for the most part. I try to throw a few in there just to make sure that it's not too mundane and routine. I asked the question once, I asked it more than once, but it was, tell me about a time when you made a big mistake in your career and how did you correct that? And so some people thought I was asking a trick question. Do I really tell her that I lost a kid? Probably don't want to do that. No, I'm kidding. Or I left a kid behind or something like that, student behind. But it's a question that lets me know, what do you think is important? What do you think is critical? And how did you correct that? What did you do? How did you call the parent? Did you explain? I'd just like to know how you think. And so some of those questions aren't trick questions. They're just different from some of the ones you may hear routinely. You're definitely going to hear about, tell me a little bit about yourself, bring your resume to life, strengths, weaknesses, that type of thing. But you may have a couple of other questions too. And again, that first impression with how you dress and how you carry yourself. I'm trying to watch my time. The next interview is a panel interview. Have you made it? Does anyone have the interview with the group? You go to a school and there are several teachers and the nurse and the assistant principal and the principal. Those are very popular and familiar. A lot of people have those interviews where you have 5 or 6 people in the room, or maybe more. And each one of those members of a group, you'll have teachers, parents, sometimes parents, support staff, administrators, and they all want to know something. Teachers want to know that you're going to come to that school and make their job a better job by being a good teammate. You are someone who is going to value their experience and their knowledge, but you're going to bring something fresh. You're new. You're going to, again, participate on committees, and those are the types of things they want to hear. Parents want to know about safety. You're going to make sure that my child is safe and comfortable, and school is going to be wonderful, and you're just going to take good care of my child. They also want to know that you know how to teach, but I left as a parent wanting to know that they know my child and they care about it. Support staff, again, someone who's going to treat them as an equal and as just because they are, and be very understanding of their roles and responsibilities. Administrators and supervisors, we want to know that you're going to, as far as compliance, following rules, regulations, policies, and that you will be able to ask questions and come to us as administrators when you have questions that really need our attention. So think about those groups if you, as you get into the next session of panel interviews or team interviews. And then there's that wonderful contract. So hopefully you'll see a few of those. We'll get some jobs this spring. And one of the things that I learned after it wasn't a good experience, someone signed a contract and then called me before, just before the board meeting, where I was going to take them forward, and they said they took a job in another district. And that's just unethical, and that's something you want to avoid because it leaves you with a bad reputation for future jobs. People don't easily forget those things. As much as we like to forgive, it's hard to deal with that when you're about to, you feel like you've placed a job, you've taken it off the market, you're set, and someone takes a job in another system. So that's really just something you want to avoid. And if offered a contract, go ahead and share information right up front that you've had this ticket for 2 years. You've got a cruise planned, and it happens to start, you'll be gone the first day of school or whatever. But be prepared to share that type of information too. Questions? Yes.
For job fairs, it's really tricky because you get appointments and you're running, and sometimes you're meeting with multiple people and you're trying to remember everyone's names. Would you recommend a follow-up letter or a thank you letter to the HR representative who contacted you about the interview, or what would you recommend?
I think if you make a connection, you feel like you really stayed a few minutes longer with someone, or you shared some information, they asked for your card, or you've asked for theirs, and you'll kind of know where you might want to send a note. Some of those letters are quickly read and discarded, and I hate to even say that because you feel like you hope they read your thank you note. If you actually receive an interview, that's when you want to follow up with a note. With the job fairs, sometimes it's tougher because the principals are out there and you're seeing a lot of people, and it may be hard to actually remember that. So, yeah, I'm going to ask this young man first.
You talked about, setting yourself apart and, saying things that set you apart. What are some answers to questions that you've gotten that don't set you apart? What are some things that you hear from everyone that you think, oh, well, I've heard that before?
The people person. I'm a people person. That one won't do much. It's because some of the times we know that, but I just expect more from you. That I enjoy, and this is why, and talk about some of the other things that you do outside of your school day, and just something that's very interesting and takes more time to think about than I enjoy being with people. But the people person one, I think we probably agree. We've heard that a little bit. Did he just say he's a people person and leave? Well, I'm sharing this time, and I want to make sure that my teammate has an opportunity. So if you have more questions afterwards, I'll be happy to talk with you.
Good afternoon, everyone. Once again, my name is Kristen Pelster, and I am a proud MBU graduate. I just congratulate you all for choosing this field. It is a lot of hard work, but there is nothing more gratifying than impacting a child's life and making a difference. And I've been doing this for 20 years now, and I still have kids come back and talk to me, and it's just, it is amazing. And I'm happy to be here today just to share with you a little experience about getting going in this career. I have a couple handouts for you. One that I did is I called a bunch of colleagues and I said, email me your interview questions that you ask. And so I put together a front and back copy of all different kinds of interview questions. So this is great if you're practicing for your interviews. Find somebody that you trust that can tell you whether you're doing a good job or not, and start doing these questions. I want to go over a few of the interview questions. One going down is, how will you be involved in school outside of the classroom? This is huge for me. When we're talking about what I look for on your resume, one of the first things I look at is what you were involved in outside of school, because everyone went to college, everyone got an education degree, everybody had to do their student teaching, but what differs you from another person is activities that you were involved in outside of the classroom. And so you really want to put everything that you have a passion for and that you are involved in, because that really tells a lot about you, those activities. And, you know, I was just thinking a job fair, and I've never gone to a job fair to look for a teacher, but, you know, those connections, if someone tells me something personal that clicks with me, that's great. Then I'm going to remember that person. We're going to get, oh yeah, you did that. Well, I was involved in that also, and strike up that conversation. So you really want to play up on, you know, what have you been involved in your whole life? What are you passionate about outside of the classroom? Also, the more you are willing to take on extra responsibilities outside of just showing up at 8 and leaving at 3, the more marketable that you are going to be. I actually have at my school, it's not in the teacher's contract, but it is an understanding at my school that if I hire you, you are expected to do something to give to our students and to the betterment of Ridgewood outside of the classroom. You have to do something, whether you do a 6-week after-school club, whether you sponsor a sport, whether you want to do staff and student of the month, something outside of the classroom. It is critical to me to connect with kids outside of the classroom. That's where the relationships, you are really building the relationships. Because if you're teaching middle school math and you have 47 minutes and you have just this gob of curriculum that says you have to get this all in before the MAP test at the beginning of April, you know, you're pulling your hair out already. So how do you really get to know kids personally and get to know them and invest in their lives? You do it by investing in their lives outside of your math classroom. And so when you go into that interview, you know, that's what I look like, because I see, well, you were interested in this and you did this in high school, and you know, how could you use that outside of your classroom? And when I have teachers that say, you know, I love scrapbooking and I'd love to do a scrapbooking club after school and scrapbook all about Ridgewood for the year, I'm thinking, woo, all right, you know, that's great. I'd love to have a scrapbook of Ridgewood for the year. So you want to be willing and able to invest in kids outside of your classroom. So that's huge for me. Another thing that I think is very, very important is technology. And I remember I had one computer class here at MBU, and we were on the huge computers with the green screens learning DOS. That is the only computer training I have had. So I've really had to do a lot on my own, but most of these school districts out here, they're full-fledged smart technology. I mean, you have the projectors, you have the Elmos, you have, my kids are in the Lindbergh School District, and they are paperless now. My eighth grader at Lindbergh is paperless. His whole entire classes, they're run through Moodle, which is an online, they blog online, their assignments, they have to be done online, I mean, everything. And so, you know, when you get hired into these schools that are full-fledged 100% in technology, and you say, I have no idea how to use technology. Because they're going to ask you, how are you going to incorporate smart technology in your classroom? Well, if you don't even know what smart technology is, you're already at a disadvantage. So if you do not know how to use smart technology, invest in learning how to use technology in the classroom, because it's coming, it's here, and that's the wave of the future, 21st century learning, and integrating technology into the learning. So that's really big. Another thing is I did a hot topics in education page for you, and to me these are really the hot topics now in education. Do your homework. Like you said, do your homework. Know what you are talking about. These things are huge to principals. Common Core, okay? MAP is on their way out. Common Core is on the way in. Be knowledgeable about what Common Core is. I gave you a little definition of what all these are and some websites that you can go to, but know what's coming down the line. Know what the hot topics are in education, so in case you get asked, you can talk about these power standards, Character education. This is huge for me. My school is a national school of character. I am huge into character education. I have it plastered all over. My front sign says National School of Character. Welcome to our campus of character. I have hanging on the thing. When you come in, it's just peace, respect, responsibility, all the banners going down the hallway. I have literally interviewed somebody in my office and I say, tell me about character education, how you would incorporate that in the classroom. Deer in the headlights stare. Do you even know what character education is? Not really, but does it have something to do with respect? Okay, interview's over. I'm done. You know, I mean, here I am, a national school character, and somebody is coming in to interview with me and doesn't even know what character education is. So please do your research. You have an interview with the school, get on their website. Try to find somebody that's connected to that school, community member, parent, and say, what's this school all about? You know, what's important to this school, and do your homework. Character education is really big. We have a organization in St. Louis called Character Plus. 52 school districts in St. Louis and Illinois are members of Character Plus. A lot of our Rockwood, Lindbergh, the Fox School District, we are national districts of character. A lot of emphasis is put in character education. I know Webster's Character Ed rep very well. So character education is big in St. Louis. One of the things that you can do is you can get your basic character education certification. I actually called Character Plus yesterday, talked to Diane Sterling, and I said, Diane, what would it cost for a college student to get their basic certification? She said, absolutely free, because it's free to district members. And I said, so a college student that does not have a teaching job yet can get their basic character education certification? Yes. It's 3 classes. They offer multiple classes all through the school year, but you take 3 classes. They're like from 9 to 3, and once you have those 3 classes done, you receive your basic character education certification. I'm telling you right now, if someone came in and I saw a resume and they said basic character education certification from Character Plus, I would be picking up the phone and calling them in a second. Okay? That's very, very important to me, and I know it's important to a lot of school districts. So you can get on their website, characterplus.org, if that is something that you would like to pursue. Service learning, assessment for learning, professional learning communities. I put some of the gurus, Rick Stiggins, Assessment for Learning, Rick DeFore, Professional Learning Communities. Websites, books, get your hands on this stuff and start learning it. Of course, IEP, CWC, class within a class. Be familiar, even if you are not a special education major, you are going to work with special education students. So be familiar with what it entails. Have some knowledge on that. Differentiated instruction, standard-based grading. Those are just things that seem to be really important in my district right now. Bring in your portfolio. I know you have to do a portfolio here. Bring it in. Some principals won't look at it when you bring it in, but you can offer it. I like to look through them. If you did all the work to put that together and bring it to me, at least I can do is look through it. I think it's great. I can actually see your work in action, see your creativity. So I think it's very important that you bring your portfolio. Offer the principal to see it. If they say, no, I don't have time, thank you very much. But some principals will take the time to look at your portfolio. If you happen not to get a job, the best thing to do is to get into schools to do substitute teaching and volunteering. There's unfortunately a lot of education majors that did not get jobs, and so they are substitute teaching. I have about 10 teachers that I use as my main base as subs. And I will tell you that when I get to know if someone does an outstanding job substituting and I know I have an opening, that's one of the first people I'm going to go for. In fact, I have a substitute teacher now who has an English degree, and I'm waiting to get her in my school. I mean, she's just phenomenal. And I've been able to watch her in action. So that's a good thing. You know, if you don't end up with a job, get out there into the school district, start subbing, start building relationships and making those connections with the schools. Another thing is to make yourself marketable by taking the praxis in different areas. If I had one student teacher who was, I think he was science, and he really wanted to be in the Fox district, and there were going to be no science openings. I think there was a social studies. He just started taking the praxis and everything, and just to make himself marketable. Now, obviously, you don't want to take praxis as something you're absolutely not interested in teaching. That's not a good thing. But sorry about that. But you want to make yourself marketable. One more thing that I think is very important, we were talking about social networking. This is huge. Social networking is huge. You have chosen a field where this really is a glass bowl field. You are held to a higher standard. Your parents will be looking at you. Your community members will be looking at you. Oh, thank you so much. Thank you. And you are held to a high standard. You are a role model. And I just want to touch a little bit on the social networking. There are school districts out there and principals out there that will try to find your MySpace page, your Facebook page, and take a look at it. Be very, very wise what you put out there under your name on the internet. Even after you get a job. We are highly discouraged in the Fox District as administrators to have Facebook pages, which I do not, just because sometimes it causes a lot of problems. But when you are a teacher, you have to make sure that you are very cautious. Even if you don't friend any of your students, you can have a friend that is friends of a student. I had a situation in my school where a teacher had a pretty wild Friday night and put it all on her Facebook page, and had a friend whose cousin was a friend of the student, and they found out, and she brought it to me in the morning and said, all these kids know about this, it's all over the school now. And I said, you've just now lost credibility. And how are you going to stand up and teach our character education lesson when all these students know about your wild and crazy, out of control Friday night? We had another situation, not at my school, but that I know of, where someone put on her Facebook account her horrible day with Johnny at school, and Johnny this, and Johnny this, and Johnny this, and one of her friends happened to be friends with the parent of that student. Huge, huge problem. Parents were in the principal's office the next day. So, you really, advice for you as new teachers, be very, very wise on what you put out there. And some people say, well, that's not fair. I have rights. I have freedom of speech. But you have to understand that in this profession, you are a role model, and you are held to high expectations than the normal just person out there with, a normal job. So let me think. I think that's about all the info I have for you. Do you have any questions for me? Questions? Okay. Well, I wish you the best of luck on your search, and it is a great field, and I've loved every second of my 20 years. Yes.
I'm sorry, I just thought of one.
That's good.
What if you have student teaching? I had a great student teaching experience in Fox, actually at Sherwood Elementary level.
Okay.
And my principal got me into subbing, loving doing it. How do you make that impression, though, on the administrative office that is making some of the decisions with hiring and things like that?
Well, I think a lot of it is you want to keep your name out there, but you don't want to be too pushy, and you really, I think it's a matter of talking to Colleen about, that you're just really interested. I know when I have someone in my building, it's me calling up there saying, hey, I know I have this position going to be open. I have this person. I want you to look at her, interview her. I'm very interested in this person. So really, I take a lot of the lead when I have a person, but those people keep in contact with me too. So, as long as you're communicating to her, I'm really interested. You think you're going to have anything open, but not on her doorstep every second,
Just continuing to
Yeah, yep, just continuing to sub. Yep. Anything else? All right, thank you.